So now we begin the second part of davening. We transition to Pesukei Dezimra, which begins with the Baruch Sheamar, page 30. And Pesukei Dezimra is where we praise Hashem, we sing Hashem's praises, and here we are climbing the ladder. We're going from the world of Asiya, we're advancing, we're going up towards heaven, we're going to the next world, the world of Yetzirah. From Nefesh, we're going to Ruach. Ruach represents spirit, and this is the world of the Malachim that are called Chayas. Here there's a tremendous Chayas, a tremendous energy, enthusiasm, where we are telling, we're speaking out loud, and Hashem's praises, we're telling others of Hashem's greatness, and how we see Hashem in this world, and we see Hashem in nature, miracles of nature, the infinite wisdom of Hashem that we see in this world. We see the imprint of the artist in this world, and then we see Hashem's hand guiding history. We see Hashem in history, in the story of man, in the second part of the Pesukei Dezimra. So it's a much more mature, much higher level where we're singing Hashem's praises. And one of the reasons it's called Zimra also comes from the word in Hebrew, to cut, lezamer, because we're cutting through the brush. There's interference. When we're trying to daven, we're trying to connect with Hashem, we're trying to become egoless, there's a lot of interference. And that interference is our animal soul, our human nature. And that's why the Torah says that first you have to feed your animal before you feed yourself. In other words, before we feed ourselves, which is our godly soul, before you feed a person, first you have to feed the animals come first. And in the spiritual sense is, before you get to the Shema is a time when you're feeding yourself. You're talking about Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, the unification, you're unifying Hashem. But before you can get to that level of connection, first you have to cut through the brush. You got to feed the animal soul. You have to get the animal soul excited. And to get the animal soul excited, you have to sing Hashem's praises. Firstly, you have to speak, you have to say it out loud, you have to sing, because we have to feel and sense godliness the same way we feel and sense our human nature. When you're angry, when you're jealous, when you're insulted, you feel in your heart, your heart feels upset, your heart feels sad, your heart feels excited. So too, when you start davening and you're starting to connect with Hashem, you have to engage the animal soul. The animal soul also has to start singing and start feeling physically in your heart. You have to start feeling the greatness of Hashem and get excited about the greatness of Hashem. So if it's just cerebral, if it's just a mental exercise, if you're not engaging your animal soul, if you're not singing and you're not speaking of Hashem's praise, and that's why the whole focus of Pesukei Dezimra is we talk about Hashem in this world, because that's the level the animal can relate to. Open your eyes, you see Hashem, the miracles and wonders of nature, and then the miracles of wonders how Hashem's guiding history, and the whole story of the Jewish people is one big miracle and wonder, and you see Hashem's hand in history. So these are things that the animal soul, our ego nature, could also digest and internalize and get excited about and start telling others with excitement, look at Hashem, look at His greatness, look how great Hashem is. And that's the opening. The opening is Baruch Sheamar. Hashem spoke, which is really the lowest level of Hashem. But Hashem creates the world with His speech. So this is the level that the animal soul could relate to. The whole Baruch Sheamar, this is the level of Hashem fills the world. And from this world you see the greatness of Hashem and you start singing Hashem's praises. So the opening of Pesukei Dezimra begins with the blessing Baruch Sheamar. This blessing is not mentioned in the Talmud. The whole Pesukei Dezimra is not mentioned in the Mishnah. The Mishnah discusses the Shema, the blessings before the Shema, the blessings after the Shema. It's not mentioned, the whole Pesukei Dezimra is not mentioned in the Mishnah. It's mentioned in the Talmud, but it's not mentioned in the Mishnah. Pesukei Dezimra in general is mentioned in the Talmud. The bracha of Yishtabach is mentioned in the Talmud, but the blessing of Baruch Sheamar is not mentioned in the Talmud. And the question is, who made up a blessing? I mean, after the Talmud we make up a blessing. So there's an ancient tradition that this blessing precedes the Talmud, even precedes the Mishnah. This blessing was instituted by the rabbis of the Great Assembly. Although it's not mentioned in the Mishnah, it's not even mentioned in the Talmud, but this blessing is an ancient blessing that was received by the rabbis of the Great Assembly. And it's an unusual blessing because even before he gets to the blessing, the blessing begins actually in the middle of Baruch Sheamar. See on page 30? In the middle of the blessing, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam. That's the beginning of every blessing. But here we have half a blessing before the blessing. Like the introduction. The rabbi says, before I speak, I'm going to say a few words. So it's unusual. So there's a tradition that this blessing came down with a note from heaven, was handed down. They received the rabbis of the Great Assembly received one day a note from heaven, a heavenly note with this blessing. And this blessing has precisely 87 words. And it's hinted at Shir HaShirim that the Reishei Kesem Paz, the head. In other words, this is like the beginning of davening. This is the beginning of Pesukei Dezimra. This is the beginning when previously was just the introduction, the groundwork, the foundation. But this is the ground floor. This is where we're starting to truly daven. The Reishei, the head, the beginning, Kesem Paz, like pure gold. Paz is 87. So it has 87 words. So every word here is very precise. It's a very powerful blessing. And this sets the tone. This is the Reish. This sets the tone for the whole davening and especially the Pesukei Dezimra. So let's begin the blessing. This blessing is very rich and there's so much to discuss, but let's first learn it on a very simple level, the literal meaning. And also this blessing depends how you count, but if you count before the Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, it says 10 times Baruch. Baruch Sheamar, blessed Sheamar V'Yohelam. Baruch Hu, blesses he. Baruch Ema V'Eser, 3. Baruch Gezer Makayim. Baruch Eser V'Reishis. Baruch Merachem Alodas. Baruch Merachem Alabrias. Baruch Mishalom Tachadeh. Baruch Hayla Adgam. Baruch Peidem Matzil. Baruch Shemoi. So without the Baruch Sheamar, the Baruch Sheamar is more like a general. Or without the Baruch Shemoi, you have like 10 Baruchs. If you count literally every Baruch, you have 13. Some versions have 15. But the 10 Baruchs correspond to the 10 utterances with which Hashem created the world. Baruch Sheamar V'Haya Elam. Blessed is he who said, and the world came into being. The whole world was created with Hashem's speech. He said, and it was. We say, and nothing happens. Hashem says, and immediately it was. Misha Amar, this is an expression that's found many times in the Talmud, the Mishnah. Misha Amar V'Haya Elam, the one who says, and the world was. Olam in the Tanakh usually means time, like forever, but Olam as world, that's in the language of the Chazal. Misha Amar, he spoke, V'Haya Elam, and the world came into being, the entire world came into being. Now, until he starts the blessing, he's going to describe Hashem, Baruch Hu, he's blessed. He's describing Hashem, different descriptions of Hashem. As the Torah says, when Hashem told Moshe to tell the Jewish people his name, Moshe says, what's your name? What should I tell them? So Hashem told him, tell them that I am called according to my actions. In other words, we can tell Hashem, we can describe Hashem. How do you describe Hashem? Hashem is indescribable. You can't describe something that you don't know. A blind person can't describe sight. It's not possible. If you don't have it in you, you can't describe it. You can't give it a name. You don't even know what it is. So we don't know what Hashem is. How do you describe Hashem? Hashem is infinite. Hashem is undefined. We're not Hashem. We don't have it within us. So if the blind person can't describe the sense of sight, multiply that infinite times that we cannot describe Hashem. But we could describe Hashem from his actions. So Hashem's actions, we get some description. That's what we can give a name. And what we're saying is that even though in this world there's a multiplicity of actions and this world is so diverse, but ultimately it all comes down to one source. There's one Hashem who's running everything. There's one theme and everything comes from Hashem, but Hashem expresses himself in many different ways. And when Hashem expresses himself, then we can give it a name. And now he's going to describe actually like 7 different descriptions of Hashem's name, the name Hashem, which is Hashem's describes Hashem's character, Hashem's essential name, Hashem's name. It's unique to Hashem. So there are 7 characteristic traits which are unique to Hashem, that's associated with the name Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. So he says, firstly, She'amar V'haya Olam. Hashem is the creator. Actually, the word Hashem, the name Hashem, comes from the word Mehave, creates. Hoive. Hashem is the creator. Only Hashem has the power to create. Something from nothing. We can create something from something. We take something that's there and we change its form. We develop it. You take intellect, and from intellect you develop emotions, but you're taking something from something. You're taking one form and you're creating a different form. From an idea, you're creating an emotion. From thought, that turns into speech. But it's something from something. There's a source, there's something that exists, and you're just changing the form, or developing it, or further developing it. Like a chain, one link, you link it up, and then you develop, you further the link, and you further the chain, you extend the chain, you're extending it. So all you're doing is really extending, but something from nothing, to create something that doesn't even know that it has a source, doesn't even feel its source. It feels like I'm here without no rhyme, no reason, no source. Not only I don't know what my source is, I don't even know that I have a source. I am, which is completely ludicrous. What do you mean you are? We're not, you are. So it's not an extension. Something from nothing means it's not an extension. The something is not an extension from the nothing. There's no relationship, there's no connection. How do you get from here to there? Like saying that you think and suddenly a book appears. What's the connection between thought, an idea, and a sense of touch? Something tangible. There's no connection. Only Hashem has the power. Hashem thinks, Hashem speaks, and it comes into being. Something from nothing. It's not an extension. It's not developing something that's there and just developing it a little further. It's creation. Something from nothing. So that's the name Hashem. That's the characteristic of a name Hashem. That's what we can call Hashem Hashem. We know something of Hashem's characteristic that only Hashem can do this. Only Hashem has the power to create something from nothing. So we can give it a name. Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei. We're not describing Hashem's essence. We don't know Hashem's essence. But we're describing a revelation of Hashem, or something that we know about Hashem that's unique about Hashem. It's Hashem's unique name. That's His characteristic. Yud Kei Vav Kei. He is the only one who mahave. He's the only one who can create. Baruch Sheamar v'haya. Haya is the word of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Haya. He's the creator. Something from nothing. Baruch Hu, blessed is He. Like when you mention Hashem's name, you say Baruch Hu, Baruch Sheamar. Then you say another characteristic trait. Baruch Sheamar v'Isa. When Moshe complained to Hashem why things are getting worse in Egypt, since Hashem sent Moshe, not only didn't He redeem the Jewish people, but things went backwards. Things got worse. So what does Hashem answer? Hashem tells him, I appeared to the patriarchs, but Shmi Hashem, the name of Hashem, lo nedaitilem. I did not appear with my name of Hashem. What do you mean? What's the name of Hashem? The name of Hashem means, Rashi says, lo kiyamti ma she'ivtachti. The name of Hashem means Hashem keeps His promise. Hashem says something and He does it. You know, politicians promise, human beings promise, nothing happens. Hashem promises and it gets done. Hashem is emes. So that's a unique characteristic trait of Hashem, that Hashem keeps His promise. And that's what He says, Baruch Sheamar v'Isa. He says and He does. And Omer is a gentle saying. Omer. Because if Hashem makes a promise, He's going to do something good. If the prophet conveys a prophecy, which is basically Hashem promising that He's going to do good, so Hashem never backs out. If Hashem made a promise, He's going to do something good, even if you don't deserve it, Hashem continues. And He carries it out. And then you have Baruch Goizer. Hashem makes a decree. Hashem makes a decree, but if He makes a decree, Baruch Goizer, He makes a decree to do something negative, so He gives a person a chance to do tshuva. If the Navi promises, if he speaks in the name of Hashem, that something negative is going to happen, Hashem waits patiently. If the person will do tshuva, then he won't follow through with the decree. But if a person doesn't do tshuva, and he's not doing tshuva, then Hashem decreed, and He will fulfill His decree. So that's a characteristic trait of Hashem. Hashem is not a politician. He promises, he delivers. He says what he means what he says he's going to do something, and he actually does it. So that's another description of the name Hashem, what's unique of the name Hashem, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Another thing that we say, Baruch Sheamar, he creates everything from beginning. Beginning means something from nothing, because everything else is not a beginning. Everything else is just an extension. The emotions are not a beginning, it's an extension of the intellect, of the idea. The speech is an extension of the thought is an extension of the emotions. It's not a beginning. The effect is not a beginning. The effect is an extension of the cause. So there's no true beginning. True beginning, only Hashem could create a true beginning. True beginning means something from nothing. Not only don't we grasp our source, we don't even know that we have a source. We're completely oblivious to the fact we have a source. There's no connection between the source, the nothing to the something. Only Hashem has the power to create a beginning. Something from nothing. Then we say, Baruch Merachem al-Aretz, blessed is He who has mercy on the earth, on the world. Merachem, that's also a characteristic trait of Hashem's name. Elokim represents din, justice, firmness, strictness. Hashem is the name for mercy. That's all the sacrifices associated with the name Hashem, like we discussed in the other class. Hashem, atonement, forgiveness. Hashem is merciful. And that's why it says when Hashem created the world, even though it says Bereshis bara Elokim, because in the beginning Hashem wanted to create the world with justice. But Hashem saw that if He created the world with justice, the world cannot survive. If the world was run by pure law, if this world was like a court of law, we wouldn't have survived. If you fall off a roof, the law of gravity, you'll fall to the ground. You'll jump to a conclusion, literally. Spiritually, it should be the same way. Every time you sin, you chop your head off, it's over. So no one would live to long age, no one will live to middle age. No one would make it. The moment you sin, the moment you stumble, that's it, off with your head. You rebelled against the king. Elokim, if this world was run strictly, Elokim, with the name Elokim, no one could survive. So Hashem had mercy, and Hashem created the world mixed mercy with justice. So that's the characteristic trait of Hashem. Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, Hashem is merciful. Hashem is compassionate. Hashem is gentle. He gives us time. Even if we sin and we stumble, He gives us time to pick ourselves back up, to get our act together. So that's another characteristic of Hashem's name. It's unique to Hashem's name. So we call the name Hashem, and Hashem's mercy and compassion. And then we say, Baruch Merachem al-Brias, He has mercy on the Brias. Brias means the only positive thing you can say about us is that we're created by Hashem. We have no other redeeming qualities, no other developed characteristic traits to speak of. But the fact that Hashem created us, and Hashem has mercy on us and gives us time to wake up, smell the coffee, learn the truth, get our act together. He has patience, He's forbearing. So that's a characteristic, special characteristic of the name Hashem. Only Hashem can be so forgiving and so, because the truth is, He should be harsh, He should be strict. You put your finger in the socket, you're going to get electrocuted. When a person sins, you should get electrocuted. Spiritually, that should be the end of your life. How could you... A spiritual death is much worse than a physical death. It's much more real. And yet, we sin and it has no effect on us. That's only because of Hashem's mercy. Hashem is mercy. And He mixed, when He created the world, He mixed kindness and compassion together with strictness, allowing us to stumble, to make mistakes, to make even terrible mistakes. And instead of rushing us, He allows us to learn, mend our ways, do tshuva. So that's another special characteristic trait of Hashem's name. Then He says, Baruch, blessed is He who meshalem sachar tov l'idei, that He's trustworthy, that He's going to give a reward. Many times, many mitzvot, especially in Leviticus, we find it says Ani Hashem. He concludes the mitzvah Ani Hashem. So Hashem, what do you mean Ani Hashem? I am Hashem who is trustworthy to give you reward. What do you mean? Hashem is trustworthy to give you reward. Because many times, the reward doesn't come in this world. The righteous people will suffer. Because as we learn in the Tanya, this world is just too small to truly be a perfect reward. It's just too limited. It's not enough of a reward to give a Jew for doing something eternal, for doing a mitzvah. The Getter Rebbe once gave a ride to one of the free thinkers in Warsaw. He was a very wealthy Jew, and he gave him a ride on his coach. And he says, Rebbe, I don't understand. It says in the Torah, if you follow Hashem's ways, you'll be rewarded. And if not, you'll be punished. He says, I'm not religious. And look at me. I'm healthy. My business is booming. I'm successful. So the Getter Rebbe smiled. He says, from your question, it's obvious. At least once in your life, you read the Shema. You read the V'hayam Shemaya. That says if you're not going to listen to the mitzvahs, you will be punished. So the Getter Rebbe told him, all the money in the world is not enough reward to give you a reward for one time, that one time that you read the Shema. This world is too limited. So when Hashem promises a reward, Hashem is eternal. So the reward that He's promising is not necessarily in the physical, a physical reward. You're going to be wealthy and become a billionaire. It's an eternal reward. It's in this world, the next world. Your neshama will live forever, eternally, will be in bliss and blessed and rewarded. So Hashem is trustworthy. The name Hashem, which represents that Hashem is eternal, Hashem is trustworthy, and He's blessed is He who will pay the reward to those who fear Him. Not necessarily in this world, but in the world of eternity. In the afterlife, or Mashiach will come when this world will become a good world and a godly world. And then He says, Baruch Sheamar v'kayim, and that's blessed is Hashem who lives forever and lasts for an eternity. And again, this is a characteristic trait of the name Hashem. There are many people who believe in God, but their theology is, it's idolatry. They believe there's a God. They believe that God created the world. Once He created the world, once upon a time in the past, and now He has nothing to do with the world. Now He let the world run. That's what Christians believe. He set the world runs on nature. The Pope will tell you that. The world runs on nature, and now the world runs on its own. Once in a while, God can intervene, and He can show that He's around, and He's the boss, and if He wants, He can do what He wants. But really, He created the world once upon a time, and now the world is running on its own. By nature, laws of nature, inviolable. But a Jew believes. For us, that's idolatry. For a Jew, we believe, as we said in that Doin Olam, and this is expressed in the name Hashem. Hashem is Haya, Hoive, Yiyah, Ke'echad. 3 words all in one. Past, present, and future. Hashem was, Hashem is, and Hashem will be. In other words, Hashem is, not only was, Hashem is involved in this world. Hashem is engaged in this world. This world doesn't exist for a moment without Hashem. So the divine providence, Hashem is guiding this world. Hashem is running this world. Nature is nothing other than Hashem. Hashem is expressing Himself, creating nature, and it's just Hashem is working through nature, but there's nothing besides Hashem. So this is the expression of Hashem's name. That's what He means. Hashem is alive. Hashem is forever. It means He's engaged in the world, involved in the world. He's guiding the world. Not only Hashem created me, but Hashem is in control of the world and is running this world. Every detail in this world. You don't move. The slightest movement doesn't happen without Hashem. And we can relate to it. When your body moves, what's your body? What's your body? Your body is a corpse. It's your soul moving. The slightest movement, your pinky moves, it's your soul moving. I don't see my soul, but it's my soul moving. The body doesn't move, the body is nothing. The body is a piece of clay. Anything that happens in this world, any penny that you earn, everything that happens in this world, your life, your health, your success, anything. Nothing happens in this world without Hashem. That's the essence of Jewish faith, as expressed in the name Hashem. Hashem is eternal. Hashem is here, past, present, future, all together.